How about allowing people to come through an open border, 13,000 of which were murderers? Many of them murdered far more than one person, and they're now happily living in the United States. Now a murderer, I believe this, it's in their genes, and we got a lot of bad genes in our country right now.
So look, he's referring to the criminals and the murderers. We're fair on this show. But saying we got a lot of bad genes in the country because the immigrants are coming in. First of all, native-born Americans commit twice as much crime as undocumented immigrants. Would anyone say they have bad genes? I don't think that's the right way to talk about things. And why are criminals criminals? There's 1,000 reasons, and we can get into it. Should they be put away? Definitely. Is it just because of their genes? I hope we're not doing eugenics still here. So it's an ugly direction to go, but he's not done yet. He also attacked Kamala Harris for wanting to feed people.
They're starting to find out that she's mentally deficient now. And people don't want to have another 4 years of a mentally deficient person. No. Everything they want to do is wrong. First of all, you have to let the private sector do it. You just have to let them. She wants to go into government housing. She wants to go into government feeding. She wants to feed people. She wants to feed people governmentally. She wants to go into a communist party type system. When you look at the things that she proposes, they're so far off. She has no clue.
Mentally deficient. The country doesn't want someone mentally deficient for another 4 years. Well, I'm glad you said that because we're going to show how mentally deficient you are in a second.
I mean, do we not hear a little bit of it right now? She wants to feed people governmentally.
By the way, this is as Hurricane Helene happened, and Donald Trump said, they're not helping anyone in North Carolina and Georgia. They won't help them at all. First of all, of course, a lie, totally made it up. Every Republican on the ground is like, that's an outrageous lie. Okay, but what is it that the government does in the short term in these situations? They feed people governmentally. But he's like, don't feed them governmentally, but she's not feeding them enough governmentally. It doesn't matter because he's mentally deficient. Everything he says is ridiculous. In fact, our audience came up with a game called Trump Brackets at TrumpBrackets.com. Hundreds of submissions for the worst or craziest thing he's ever said or done. Then down to 64 to play Trump Brackets like March Madness. And now we're down to the Sweet 16. So these are super tough questions. We need your help and we need your vote on these. You'll see TrumpBrackets.com. We'll put the link in the description box. So let me give you the 4 questions for today. Said his VP deserved to be murdered. That's a number 1 seed. We're going to give you an example of that in a second. And removed over 300 classified docs from the White House. That's only a 9 seed. For any other president, if they removed top secret, it wasn't just classified, top secret information, including about defenses of other countries, and including information about nuclear secrets, that would be the worst thing they did. For Trump, it's a 9 seed, okay? So here's Cassidy Hutchinson, who was a Trump official, talking about what Trump did on January 6th.
I remember Pat saying something to the effect of, Mark, we need to do something more. They're literally calling for the vice president to be effing hung. And Mark had responded something to the effect of, you heard him, Pat. He thinks Mike deserves it. He doesn't think they're doing anything wrong.
He thought his vice president deserved to be murdered. And we're still having an election. I mean, and I don't mean that we shouldn't have an election. Of course we should. But how's it close? Republicans, why'd you nominate this guy? Democrats, why are you having trouble beating this guy? Jesus Christ, let alone the top secrets he took home for God knows what reason. So that's the first question. Second question, Second Amendment said the Second Amendment supporters could counteract Clinton's judicial appointments. Wow, now they talk about, are Democrats inciting people to do violence? I'm going to show you that clip in a second. And then that's a 5 seed, and a 4 seed is suggested dangerous statements like injecting disinfectants. People now say, oh, no, he didn't really say that. Okay, so we'll show you both. First, what he said about the judges.
Hillary wants to essentially abolish the Second Amendment. By the way, and if she gets to pick her judges, nothing you can do, folks. Although the Second Amendment people, maybe there is, I don't know. But
if I said right now, well, there's nothing you can do about Trump running for president, well, maybe the Second Amendment people could do something. That would be horrible. And the right wing, and I hope mainstream media is it, well, would be outraged. What are you doing? Are you crazy? Trump says it, nobody cares. People have forgotten that completely.
Yeah.
He suggested murdering the judges that Hillary Clinton appoints.
Listen, when conversations come up about bringing the temperature down, especially after there are politically motivated mass shootings or assassination attempts against politicians like Trump himself, Trump should really consider how much he has contributed to raising the temperature with rhetoric like that.
Yeah. And now this is the one that I thought would knock him out, but at this point it's a 5 seed or a 4 seed, and it seems mild compared to some of the others. But now, MAGA has all this propaganda where they pretend things didn't happen when they did. So did he really say we should put disinfectant inside our bodies to treat COVID, which would obviously kill us? Did he really say that? Watch.
I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number on the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. Almost a cleaning, sterilization of an area. Right. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't work, but it certainly has a big effect if it's on a stationary object.
He's just asking questions.
So he said inject, he said disinfectant, he said inside the body. There's no question. That's why every doctor on screen is mortified. They're like, no. And guys, please tell me you get it. Like Clorox and other disinfectants you could use on surfaces. It's really good with surfaces, but it's toxic inside a human body. It's super obvious he doesn't understand that. That is so, and that's in the middle of, that's not even in the beginning of COVID. That was way into COVID. Mm-hmm. He didn't even bother figuring out the bare basics in the middle of one of the biggest catastrophes we've had, and he's in charge. And he's wondering, live, on TV, should we inject disinfectant into our bodies? And I think that's probably gonna lose. I mean, TrumpRackets.com, you guys get to decide.
Yeah, look, I firmly believe that the reason why Donald Trump lost re-election was his mishandling of the coronavirus pandemic. Because when you really think about it and you look at the critical swing states, Biden barely eked out a win.
Yep.
And so really Trump's mishandling of the pandemic really hurt him politically. And it was ridiculous statements like that during the daily, remember the era where he was doing daily press conferences?
Yep.
It was just a constant circus at a time when a lot of people were deeply, deeply terrified about what the future was. Everything was unstable. They didn't know what was gonna come next. And you need a leader that's going to ease everyone's nerves, help people feel safe and protected. Instead, he kind of ratcheted up the chaos and the circus. It was unfortunate.
All right, next question, just 2 more here for today. Threatened to target his political opponents if reelected, that's a 3 seed, and suggests a shooting Black Lives Matter protesters in the legs, that's a 6 seed. Threatened to shoot American citizens in the leg, only a 6 seed. Okay, and again, if you were saying, really, did he do those things? Here's the first one.
But wouldn't it be terrible to throw the president's wife and the former Secretary of State, think of it, the former Secretary of State, but the president's wife into jail? Wouldn't that be a terrible thing? But they want to do it. So, it's a terrible, terrible path that they're leading us to. And it's very possible that it's going to have to happen to them.
It's going to have to happen to them. Wait, but did they break any laws? They don't care. Okay, and now he said that many, many times. And he said people running Google and Facebook and the Washington Post, he thinks that they're biased against them, that they should all be arrested as soon as he wins. Okay, and then how about the shooting of the legs? Well, Mark Esper, his defense secretary, said this. Trump looked frankly at the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, and said, can't you just shoot them? Just shoot them in the legs or something? It was a suggestion and a formal question. And we were just all taken aback at that moment as this issue just hung very heavily in the air. Now remember, he's not just asking anyone to shoot black protesters in the leg. He's asking the head of our military. Can we bring in the US military to shoot black people because I don't like their protests. How is this a close election? That's why I'm saying spread TrumpBrackets.com as far as you can so that undecided voters don't forget these monstrosities, and spread these videos as well. Last question for today. Found liable of sexual abuse of E. Jean Carroll, that's a 2 seed, and gave his own family jobs and pressured intelligence agencies for clearances, that's a 10 seed. So those are all awful, of course. Anna, last thoughts about these?
Yeah, look, you mentioned, I forget the exact word you just used to describe Donald Trump's leadership. And I get that we're doing our part, through Trump brackets to remind undecided voters about who Trump is and what his leadership looked like. But the Democratic Party needs to do its job as well. And the fact that this is a close election is not an indictment on the voters, an indictment on the media to some extent, but honestly, it's an indictment on the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
Let's just keep it real, okay? It shouldn't be a close election, but it is. And rather than look inward, all I've seen from the Democratic Party is a sense of entitlement, lashing out against anyone who doesn't give a full-throated endorsement to Kamala Harris. And I find that to be unacceptable from the party that purports to be supportive of protecting our democratic process. Do the work. No one's entitled to a damn thing.
Yeah, and so guys, whether you're upset with the Democrats, you're upset with mainstream media, or not, is not the question at hand. The question at hand is, who are you going to vote for? There's a month left, and my thought is, we live to fight another day. But if this guy comes back in to terrorize us for 4 long years, and without any of the establishment checks and balances he had before, the things that we're talking about here are going to get amped up. And I don't know how we make it through 4 years of this madman and all the new crazy things he'll do for those 4 long, brutal years. So for God's sake, said TrumpBrackets.com and these videos to everyone you know. And if they say, no, I'm good with it. I'm good with the US military shooting US citizens if they don't agree with the protests. I'm good with injecting disinfectant. I'm good with all of it. Okay, but at least they know. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.